Well, good morning and thank you for joining the Bigtincan Investor Briefing. I'm Jane Morgan and today I am joined by Bigtincan CEO and co-founder David Keane, who will be running through today's presentation. David?
Thank you, Jane. Welcome everyone to Bigtincan's June 2021 Appendix 4C Quarterly Report and Business Update Investor Briefing. Yes, my name's David Keane, the CEO and co-founder of Bigtincan. And with me here today is Cyril D'Souza, our Global Financial Controller, and Vivian Stewart, Bigtincan's Chief Operating Officer. For today's call, we will be reviewing the Appendix 4C report that was released to the ASX this morning, together with some presentation slides that go along with that report. And we'll be using those materials to provide you with an insight into Bigtincan's results. And those materials are available on the ASX, as well as on our investor site at investor.bigtincan.com. Okay, now on to some details for today. Let me start by saying that Q4 FY21 was a strong quarter for Bigtincan as we again demonstrated the benefits of our global enterprise-focused business. And so, yes, we were pleased with the results this quarter as Bigtincan continued our progression as a global leader in one of the fastest growing areas in enterprise SaaS. And today we'll review those results in detail, but we'll also spend some time talking about our market and the growth opportunities for Bigtincan into the future. And most importantly, before we begin, I want to send my thank you to our entire global Bigtincan team, who have again shown their ability to execute, delight our customers, and provide value to investors. And of course, thank you to our amazing customers who put all this technology to work. So let's get on with the results. Now, for those that are new to the BTH story, I wanted to introduce our company and talk about, I guess, some of the impact we're having on the world's leading brands as they work with us to use our software as a service platform to create the buying experience of the future for their teams. So to do that, a few numbers about Bigtincan. We have more than 1,000 customer deployments around the world. And we have users using that software in more than 60 countries. And that's a real global customer base. We have more than 500,000 licensed seats now in the Bigtincan network, which is really growing well. We also have established routes to market for our business, both here in North America, where I'm speaking to you from, just in our office just outside of Boston, Massachusetts, as well as locations around the world. And we work in a large market opportunity with a $10 billion plus total market size space. And there are more than 230 Bigtincan humans around the world dedicated to our vision of creating that buying experience of the future and helping every human being perform better in a world that is more digital and more remote than ever before. So as detailed in the 4C, this period, Bigtincan delivered strong operating cash flows. We achieved 48% ARR growth over last year, reaching $53 million. And we're pleased to inform investors that we expect FY21 revenue to close in excess of $43.5 million. Now that's a strong result from the originally issued guidance of 41 to 44 that was then upgraded to 43 to 44 earlier this financial year. And that revenue growth is roughly 40% revenue growth over FY21. And certainly we believe notably strong given the fluctuations in the Australian dollar during this financial year. Now today we'll look at the constant currency impacts of those fluctuations, which I believe will provide confidence to investors that Bigtincan is on track to continue our progress with the ability to adapt to changing market conditions. Let's talk about some more highlights from the 4C on the next slide. So, cash and cash equivalents was $56.7 million at the end of the period. So a pleasing result for the company. Let's have a look at the next one. Let me jump back. Yep, we'll jump back to ARR. So we talked about ARR being up 48% over end of June 2020 to 53.1 million. I want to talk a bit about some of the sources of that growth. If we just jump forward to the sources of growth slide there. So the growth in ARR was driven by new wins and expansion that was powered by the multiple hubs product strategy, plus the successful integration of the ClearSlide acquisition. They were important in this quarter. In the 4C, one point we see as insightful for investors is that initial success, what we call the Engagement Hub product, which delivered $1.3 million in additional ARR in the 6 months in the second half of this financial year. And it shows why these M&A activities can be tools to accelerate the core growth of the company. And more on that ARR. That's a second half ARR growth of $4.8 million. That's up almost 20% over the 4.2 million organic ARR growth in first half FY21. And overall FY21 ARR organic growth of $9 million. And this is an outstanding result for Bigtincan given the global market conditions over the last 12 months. And we'll talk a bit more about that currency impact and talk about constant currency results later and how that impacts the overall totals. But yeah, this was a good result for the company. Now on products, we'll talk more about that shortly, but this quarter was important as we built on that hubs strategy and introduced a bunch of new technology behind those hubs. And the team worked really hard to communicate that product strategy to our customers around the world, but also to our investors, notably at our investor product and technology event that was held this quarter. Now that event is available to stream now on investor.bigtincan.com. And I highly recommend you watch that video if you're interested in learning more about the company and our products. You know, I'd love you to look at some of these examples of amazing products, including our Voice Vibes voice analytics offering and our updated Manager View learning tools that are featured in that video. And these are just two of a set of technologies that are really unique in the market and delight our customers. One measure I like to use to review that for investors in terms of how we're progressing is to look at how customers use and expand on our technology. Some new customers this quarter include Fujitsu, Air France, and Uber Eats. And we see sort of expansion this quarter from a bunch of customers, including Allurion, British Telecom, Genentech, Peters Surgical, Sales Publishing, and WL Gore. So overall, that land and expand model that we've talked to investors about before, you know, really is showing the benefits when Bigtincan approaches these larger markets globally. And that's work that's been done here in the USA to prove out that model with the business already established. And it's something we plan to replicate in other geographies in FY22. So to ground us on that hubs strategy and how those hubs work, we asked one of the previously existing and expanding ClearSlide customers, now Engagement Hub customers, Robbie Hebert, the managing partner at Green Home Systems. You know, Green Home is an amazing company. They are bringing American-made solar products to more than 25 states across the USA and using the Bigtincan ClearSlide product as a core part of how they drive that success. And as we always do when we're talking to investors, we love to show you how our customers use our product. So Robbie, over to you to tell us more.
Partnering with Bigtincan was a game changer for us. We expanded and grew in 2020, and the primary reason for that is our relationship with Bigtincan and what they provide for us. Hi, my name is Robbie Hebert. I'm the managing partner at Green Home Systems, and I've been part of the management team since our inception. We sell solar to homeowners and businesses in about 25 of the states. 8 years ago, we were a local regional Southern California company whereby the sales reps would go out and meet and try to earn business face to face. We can't afford to have salespeople spending 50% of their day not on the phone selling. Thankfully, an old colleague of ours had been singing the praises about ClearSlide, so we gave it a shot, and 8 years later, we're still using it. Somebody once asked me how ClearSlide incorporates into our sales process, and I thought about it for a second, and the answer was, it is our sales process. It literally is the backbone of our sales process, period. Nobody's been able to come along and do what ClearSlide can do with this pitch process and the engagement and the mass emails and the data tracking for management, et cetera, et cetera. ClearSlide 100% is responsible for giving us back about 4 hours of our time per sales rep. We're able to double our sales simply because we're able to get twice as much done in the same 9-hour day. Essentially, it just expands our reach by about 10x in terms of the number of homeowners. So if you do the math, it's increasing the revenue by conservatively 40% on an annual basis. And it's just so simple. I could train a 10-year-old how to use ClearSlide in 3 hours. We couldn't be happier.
Thanks, Robbie, for sharing that story with us. You know, now that the hubs strategy that we introduced in that investor product and tech event this quarter is helpful here in terms of how we think about that strategy and where these hubs come on stream for the business. Now, the best way to think about the hubs is in a similar way to how software organizations like Salesforce.com grew their offerings with a clouds strategy. The hubs strategy is allowing our customers to purchase more than one hub and do so in an integrated way. For example, purchasing our content hub with our learning hub, or our engagement hub with our learning hub, etc. Or, of course, hopefully, all three hubs. So we see growth opportunities inside each hub and new potential hubs coming on stream in FY22. Now, before I hand over to Cyril D'Souza, our Global Financial Controller, to take you through the results in detail, I thought we could talk a little bit more about that strategy and why we see the platform underneath those hubs making such a huge difference for our customers. Now, we continue to invest in ensuring Bigtincan has the core underlying technology that drives that platform. And we'll talk about it later on, but we continue to protect that with patent applications and work that our team does around the world to build the very best infrastructure for our business. All right, Cyril, over to you to run through the details.
Thank you, David, and good morning to everyone. Let me start by reviewing this quarter's cash position. Customer cash receipts for Q4 FY21 were 14.7 million, an increase of 20% from Q3 FY21 and an increase of 40% over the prior corresponding quarter. If we excluded prepayments from any quarter since the IPO, this quarter represented the highest cash receipts in the company's history. This highlights the success, and David's pointed it out, of our land and expansion model, as seen by some of the customer wins and expansions during this quarter, such as Air France, Uber Eats, and British Telecom, as we continually seek to grow a long-term sustainable business. Total cash operating payments for the quarter were 14.7 million, in line with the cash receipts, which represents a decrease of 7% over the prior quarter and an increase of 19% over the prior corresponding quarter, as you factor in the operating costs such as ClearSlide and Ignitio, which were acquired during the financial year. Also, please note in this quarter that we included acquisition costs of 200,000 related to ClearSlide and 300,000 worth of acquisition costs related to Vidinoti, which was announced on 17th of June earlier this year. Overall, this quarter ended with a net cash position from operating activities of 22,000. I'd like to highlight in this cash report that in the prior year, on the next slide, that total cash collections were 39.7 million, of which 4.5 million related to multi-year payments, with 4 million related to services in FY21 that would have been received in FY21. Adjusting for these multi-year payments, that would have increased our cash collections by a total of 29%. Moving on to the next slide, another way of thinking of these results is to look at the total collected of 41.9 million, representing 117 conversion against the initial starting ARR at 35.8 million. This is consistent with the prior years of FY19 and FY20, demonstrating strong execution of accounts receivable and our enterprise-focused business model benefits. And when considering with adjustments for multi-year payments, it actually represents 125% growth. Moving to the next slide, and as David has discussed, we expect our audited revenue to be in excess of 43.5 million, representing an annual growth of over 40%. Moving now to ARR. As David mentioned, ARR for the period was 53.1 million, an increase of 48% from the prior year of 35.8. This represents a compound growth rate of 51% over the last 4 financial years. The split in ARR was pretty much 50-50 in terms of new wins and expansion, with full disclosure of all the other metrics and retention rates to come with the results in August. Since the majority of our ARR is generated in the USA, and reviewing the impact of foreign exchange by using the FY20 average rate against all the transactions in FY21, ARR was impacted by 4% on a constant currency basis and would have been 55 million, up from 53 million, with the organic portion rate being 29% to 46.1 million on a constant currency basis. Now, I wanted to point out as well, within investing activities, Bigtincan continued its program in investing in long-term development projects by capitalizing $2 million for this quarter. These relate to software that will likely achieve technological feasibility and will be eventually marketed and generate future revenue opportunities. They are long-term strategic programs, intangible assets that support our ongoing investments in data science. For FY21, these costs represent 30% of total product and engineering costs, which is slightly higher than the percentage that we had in FY20. As at 30 June 2021, Bigtincan held $56.7 million in cash and cash equivalents, net of the final consideration payment of Vidinoti of $500,000. The company is well funded to execute on our growth plans as we can continue to deliver long-term shareholder value. That's all for me. Thank you for all attending and looking forward to seeing you all at the full year results. Back to you, David.
Thank you, Cyril. So in summary, this quarter was another consistent quarter in the company's progression towards creating the buying experience of the future for the world's leading organizations and their customers. Now, I did want to show you just a few of our highlights from FY21 as we end the year. Now, I know there's a lot on this slide and there's also a lot in the 4C for you to review. But for investors, it's important to get a view of the broader Bigtincan opportunity by understanding how this fits the strategy of the well-funded organic growth engine, working with a team that is executing globally to drive that land and expand model, our M&A strategy that brings new technology, new customers, and highly skilled employees to Bigtincan, our strong and growing US customer base that is delivering now, and ongoing recognition from market analysts for our award-winning products, our growing channel network, which continued to develop in FY21, and of course, some cool core technology that goes together to build the business. So I want to take this opportunity again to thank the entire global team at Bigtincan for their commitment to our vision and for the work that they do every day to deliver for our customers, our investors, and each other. So thanks again for attending this 4C briefing. And again, as Cyril said, for investors who follow Bigtincan, we're looking forward to seeing you again with our full year results in August.